Good afternoon, everyone. We have with us Dr. Prashant Das, who is an associate professor of real estate at IIM Ahmedabad. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you, Nirat.
We had a discussion about the conversation. We had a talk earlier as well. So, my question to you, sir, would be: real estate in general has been a very capital intensive, game industry in general. More so now because there are a lot of FSI increases. The height of the building has increased, so a lot of capital goes into it. So a lot of developers here are also looking at something different. So what are the alternate strategies for developers to change the real estate game in general?
Yeah, Nirat, when I talk to various audiences across the globe, that includes students in the US or Europe or China or at IIM Ahmedabad, I describe a real estate developer as a dreamer. And they look at me with gawking faces because, they have never thought of a real estate developer as a dreamer. But if you think about the role of a real estate developer, it's immensely multifaceted. On the one hand, you're talking to very sophisticated, very suave finance experts because you have to finance your projects. On the other, you're talking to designers, landscape planners, interior designers, engineers, and then you're talking to regulators and you're talking to customers. And you're juggling across a very heterogeneous, very different set of stakeholders. And then one fine day, a developer comes forward, looks at a piece of dump called land, and she's able to transform that dream into reality. So, long story short, what a developer offers as a skill set is immensely diverse and immensely deep. And it's a travesty that despite all that, the traditional business model that the developers have been adopting is very volatile in cash flows. Your project cash flows, the inflows are very choppy, the outflows also are very choppy, and not only choppy, they are also uncertain. That makes me wonder why. Why should such a smart, such a creative professional called a real estate developer have to be in a business that by design is so volatile? And if you look at how developers in the Western countries have pivoted, you get a lot of inspiration. So you talk about capital intensiveness of real estate projects in India, and that is only because if you remember in Ramayana, Hanuman ji was supposed to fly, and he had forgotten that he can fly, right? So people come and flock around him and say, "Hey, look, you can fly." And then he realizes that he can actually fly. I think we need that moment for real estate developers in India. So, first, the traditional business model of building to sell needs to be rethought. Is that the only business that a developer can do? No. With the kind of skill set and experience and exposure and liaisoning capability with various types of stakeholders, a developer can very well diversify and use the same set of skills to get into other businesses as well. So when you talk about asset-heavy businesses, that is where these challenges come. How about getting into asset-light businesses? For example, asset management and property management. There are many developers who hold assets on their own balance sheet. Why cannot that portfolio be expanded? Because once you develop an asset and hold them on your own balance sheet, you are promising stable cash flows for yourself. And these cash flows are with a very high degree of certainty. You don't face cash flow risk over time. That means if you also segue and pivot into asset management and property management, then over time you can start thinking about assets such as SMVs, which is a very brand new product that Citi has come up with. You can also become asset light simply as someone who structures the deals. So, in a private equity real estate fund, a developer can serve as the general partner and remain substantially asset light. If you want to continue on the asset heavy side, then there are many other types of products that you need to rethink. Why only homes? Why not some sustainable products like solar parks? Why not uh, package some services with assets that you hold on your own balance sheet? For example, senior housing. I mean, India is going to age. Our population will continue to increase until 2070, right? By that time, many of us may not be here on the face of the earth, right? But we are talking about a population which is continually aging, and we don't have products for aging citizens. Not necessarily would they want to buy a home that they will own forever. So there is a huge market that is just asking for a product and solution. And with our skill set, we can offer that. Student housing. This is another area where by packaging some services with rental housing, we can increase the rental yield and make it financially feasible and attractive. So there's so many things needed that developers could do. I mean, you are a set of dreamers. You are the one who can do it.
True. That's very true. I mean, on the asset heavy side, as you talked about, there are multiple options. But when we talk about asset light side, where we don't want to invest a lot of money into it, what are your thoughts on fractional ownership and tokenization of real estate assets?
Absolutely. So there, in a way, you become an asset manager. So you are sort of funneling capital from cash surplus units and placing them in cash deficit units. I'm personally very bullish about the future of fractional ownership and tokenization. Tokenization is, in a way, an adornment of fractional ownership. So to me, both of them are pretty much the same. It's just that in India, we do have regulations from SEBI on fractional ownership, but when that fractional ownership is tokenized, it is still seeking to be regulated, but it's just a matter of time. It will be regulated in the future. So going forward, we will use them synonymously. What fractional ownership allows is to give cash surplus units, investors, a swathe of possibilities to take smaller exposures in a large number of assets. On the other hand, cash deficit units, like developers or builders, they are able to raise capital from non-traditional retail investors. So this is the classical problem of mismatch between cash deficit units and cash surplus units. This is where a whole industry of investment banking has been built, right? And what fractional ownership may potentially do is lead to disintermediation, right? And that is phenomenal. That is phenomenal for an economy because this is going to democratize investors' access to all sorts of assets, and this is also going to democratize access to capital for the cash deficit unit. So I see no reason why, with proper regulation and proper sensitization and marketing, this area will not develop in the future.
That's very true. I mean, I hope it starts soon. But till that time, a lot of people are thinking of leasing an asset instead of buying it. So, what are your thoughts on leasing versus buying a real estate asset?
Yeah, Nirat, you have hit a chord that I did not want to be hit. Um, every time I talk to my friends in India who are very emotional about the idea of buying a home, I'm often misunderstood on this front. You see, the population of India is growing by around 2% every year. And this growth will happen until 2070, as we just discussed. And our household sizes are shrinking. Like from 5 point something a couple of decades ago, we have come down to 3 point something. So the population is increasing and the household size are shrinking. That means the need for homes is definitely going to increase. That means people who are in the business of supplying new homes will always be in business. So the idea is not whether we need more housing or not. The idea is whether it is financially prudent for a home buyer to buy a home versus renting it. Now, with time, as all of us have witnessed, the investment demand for buying homes is gradually plateauing, but the demand is still increasing over time. There is no dearth of demand for housing. So I do feel that from a financial prudence standpoint for many households, renting may make sense, at least in the short and medium term. And that may also give a reason for the developer community to think about developing assets which are friendly to renters. And but with your permission, I could add a few points to
Sure.
this
Sure.
discussion. That in India, Niti Aayog came up with Model Tenancy Act. I think that was just a couple of years ago, where they tried to rationalize the rental market. If you do financial modeling on Excel, it may often tell you that for a regular household, sometimes renting homes is financially more prudent than buying homes. But as a nation, are we ready to allow long-term safe tenancy to renters? That is where we have problems. Because the rental contracts, especially in the leasing space, is left to the whims and fancies of the landlord and the tenant. We don't have very strong contractual laws that protect the rights of the landlords and the tenants. And that may lead to a lot of uncertainty in people's lives, right? So it's not only the financial reasons that people buy homes, people also buy homes for many other reasons. And but long story short, maybe from a financial standpoint, an increasing proportion of people is shifting towards rental housing. And I agree with you. And that is one area where developers need to think deeply and see what to do.
Uh, yeah. My final question to you, sir. What are your thoughts on the future of the real estate market, especially in Ahmedabad?
Oh, I wish I knew more than you do about Ahmedabad markets. Um, this is one city where the community of developers doesn't cease to amaze you. Uh, I have interacted with many developers in Ahmedabad, and I've always been very impressed by their sense of camaraderie, their sense of responsiveness to the society, towards the environment. Going forward, I feel that this city can take a lead in innovation when it comes to coming up with new real estate products.
Sir, thank you so much for your time. It was very, very thoughtful, and it was great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thanks a lot.